Hello and welcome to another Walker Analytics video. I am Wesley Walker, the founder and director of Walker Analytics. And in today's video, I'm going to take you through a full tutorial of Matomo Analytics. Some of you might not be familiar with what Matomo is. And what Matomo is essentially it's become a very popular Google Analytics alternative. It's trusted on over 1 million websites in 190 countries worldwide. And it provides countries with more control over their data and the location management of their data than you typically get with Google Analytics. Features of Matomo Analytics includes no data sampling, meaning you get access to 100% of your data. You can include custom dimensions and goals. You can allow imports of GA data directly into Matomo. You can track an unlimited number of websites, users, and segments. And you can use Matomo without cookie consent. And they're one of the very few analytics tools where you actually have the capability to do that. And most importantly, with Matomo Premise, which is an upgraded subscription of Matomo, you have the possibility to actually choose the location of the servers of your data. It's a very important feature today with GDPR hot on Google Analytics tail. This is essentially the main reason why Google Analytics has been banned in France and other countries across Europe. It's because of this reason of Google Analytics data being stored in America. Whereas Matomo gives you the ability to have it stored in the location of your choice, and by default it's stored in Germany, which is one of the most GDPR strict countries in the world. So before we begin, if any of you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more data analytics tutorials, reviews, and more. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and hit that bell notification icon so that you don't miss a single one of our uploads. Let's begin. So as you can see right now, we have logged into the demo version of the Matomo platform. So first off the bat, when you see Matomo, you get access to a dashboard. And this dashboard includes lots of key information, so visits over time, your top mover and shaker pages, visits in real time, and the visitor map. This dashboard is actually customizable as well. So I've added in this visits icon or scorecard here, but you do have the option to add multiple widgets in here. So you can add KPI metrics, and when you hover over it, it will show you, what that looks like. So this is visits, which I've included. You can add views on like visitors, so real-time visitor count, visitor profile, visits log, locations, devices, behavior information, site search, events, engagement, top paths. Lots of more like additional information that you can add into here to make the dashboard more useful for yourself. Also, you can see that there are lots of other different sections in here, and it's actually laid out in a very familiar way, quite close to GA. So you have a section on visitors, which shows you lots of different breakdowns about your actual visitors to your website and where they came from. You have behavior, so it shows you actions that your visitors made when they're on your website. There's lots of different breakdowns in here. You have acquisition, which is all around your source of your traffic and the marketing channel mix, campaigns, etc. Then you have your e-commerce view, which gives you an overview, product sales, sales distribution, etc. You also have a view just for your goals, so the goals that you've got in here. You have a view of the funnel as well. So these are specific funnels that you can create for your website. And you have forms, which gives you an overview of how your visitors are interacting with forms on your website. You have media, which shows you how visitors interact with your video, audio, media on your website. And you have A/B testing as well. So there's also functionality to do A/B testing through Matomo. And you can view stats on your A/B tests that you're currently running. You also have heat maps, which is something you don't get out of Google Analytics by default. You have that data all within here, and then you also have session recordings as well, which is another feature you don't get out of Google Analytics, which you have involved in Matomo, which is very interesting. And you have custom reports that you can create throughout the platform. So with dashboards, you have the possibility to add some filters over your dashboard. So you can change the date range. So at the moment it's looking at a single day, but you can change this to be for week, month, year, or you can choose a specific selection yourself, and I'll update all the data accordingly. So we can see we're looking at all of May so far, and this is how now updated the dashboard. You can also add a segment over your dashboard. So if you wanted to look at a specific subset of your section of your traffic, you can by creating a new segment, and then you have the possibility to create a new one. So you can see that there's quite a lot of fields that you can play around with. So if we want to create one based on, let's say page, So entry page URL. So we could say it's equal to, say, the jobs. So we look at jobs traffic. So we can call this jobs entry traffic. And then click save. It will reload and it'll be analyzing just the jobs. So we have no traffic for this particular segment, but you get the gist of how that works essentially. Okay, so now we can look into the visitors section. So first off, in the section, you can see that there's a overview. So typically, I think every section has like an overview, like you typically get within Google Analytics. So in here, we have the visits over time that you see on the overview. So you can see the number of visits that were accumulated by day or by month in this case for the website that you're tracking through Matomo. And then you get some key stats here below. So you get 62,000 visits, you get the average visit duration, the bounce rate of the visits to your website, and then you got how many actions happened per visit on average, so 1.9, and the maximum actions in one visit. You also get the unique page views, total searches on your website, so this will be internal searches on your website, and how many downloads happened, and then how many outlinks as well, so people clicking on links that take them to a different website essentially. And then you still have the same filter options you had here before, so you can change the month to be for a specific period, so you can look at all of April. So that doesn't, you might notice that doesn't change this data up here. So this chart, it looks like, is still looking at around a 12-month period. And you can change that to be like daily, weekly, monthly instead. So if you want to look at days, you can do. And then when you change that, that will show you the days throughout April instead of the 12-month period that you got before. You can see all the annotations. So like you have in GA as well, you can have annotations for specific periods, and you can create a new annotation for a specific date of your choice, just like you can within Google Analytics. You can export the chart itself as an image, or you can export the actual data set itself, and you have a list of formats here. You have CSV, XML, JSON, Excel, etc. So the next section is visits log. So we can see here, this is the log of all the visits that have happened within your data range period. So we're looking at April, so there'll be quite a lot, but you can see the information for each visit. So you can see the timestamp, the location, and the IP of the visitor. And you can see the source of the visit as well. You can see the user type as well. When you click into view visitor profile, you can see actually like more information on the specific visitor themselves. So you can see a summary, custom dimensions, their first visit and their last visit, the number of devices that they visited your website on, and location. And you can see information about each visit. So this particular visitor has visited the website many times, 33 times to be precise. And you can see each one every time they did. You can also make this specific tab full screen. So when you click this, it will remove the menu on the left-hand side, and you can see all the information here that you need. And you can put that back to normal as well. At this moment in time, I don't believe that you can export visits log information. It's only within the Matomo platform. That might change in the future. So real-time information, so you can see visits that occurred on your website in real time. So you can see all the visits happened in the last 24 hours and within the last 30 minutes for today. You can see the visits and the actions that happened. And then you can also see a top-line view of the visits log for the customers who viewed your website today within that real-time period. So you can see country and whether they were a returning visitor or not, their browser, operating system, device type, and you can view the visitor profile as well if need be. It's a lot more simplistic, this view, than what you get in Google Analytics, but can be useful, I guess, nonetheless, but not as useful as Google Analytics view, in my opinion. You then get the real-time map, so you can see where the actual customers who are currently on your website, where they are coming from, and this is for the last 30 minutes. So when you hover over, you can see more information about each location. So you can see Spain, there were 2 page views, and you can see the page that they visited, the device, etc. Again, you have some real-time information available to you from Matomo. It's not as good as Google Analytics because you can't go through like traffic sources, events, pages in an easy way like you can on Google Analytics, but you do have real-time capability. Locations. So now we can see the geographical information for your visitors to your website. So you can see the countries that get the most visits. You can see like a map view, which has a color scale of the areas that you tend to get the most amount of traffic from. Then you have a view of continent as well, region, city, and the browser language as well. And if it's available, you have data in here, but in this case, in the test account, there isn't any information. Devices. So here you can see more information on the devices users are using on your website. So you can see the actual device type itself. So you've got the standard desktop, smartphone, tablet, phablet, which I guess is a mix between a phone and a tablet. Interesting classification. I've not seen that in any other platform before. Unknown devices, people who are browsing on a console, media player, TV, feature phone, and then camera. Feature phone, in my opinion, should probably been classified with phone, just to make things a little bit more simpler. But you have that split within Matomo. You have the device model as well, so generic, desktop, Apple, Samsung, all the device models that are tracked are available there. You have the brand, and you have the screen resolution as well. So software, so this is where you get inside the operating system information. So you can see the operating systems that your customers are using when they visit your website. You have access to the browsers that they were using when they visited your website, as well as their browser configuration, the browser engines, and also any plugins that they actually had when they were viewing your website, which is pretty interesting in my opinion. I've not seen this information anywhere else. 94% using cookies, that's expected. Times, so this is where you can see time range, like time information. So you can see visits per their local time, so you can see what time of day your website is the busiest. So in this case, it's busiest at 3 p.m. Get 8% of all their visits at that time. 3 and 11 a.m. You can see visits per hour in the website's time zone. So you can see 7% of visits coming at 12 o'clock and 5 p.m. So this is for the actual visitors' local time. And then you have visits per the site's hour for the site's time zone. So this could be useful if you have a lot of international traffic. So you have lots of customers from all around the world. You can see when their local time is on average to view your website. Whereas you can look at your actual site's time zone. So if you have a website based in the UK, you can see your time zone here. If you have lots of traffic from America, Germany, Africa, and lots of other places around the world, then you can see what their time zone is like on average as well. And to make this even more useful, don't forget that you can also add a segment on top of this to overlay this. So you could add a segment for like a specific country, and then that can show you what time they're coming to your website for their local time, and then how that works out with your site's local time. So now you have a section of user IDs. So this is where you can have the information of customers that are registered or logged into your website, and you can see their user ID of that logged in customer. So you can see specific customers and how many visits they've made, actions for all customers who've logged in essentially. And again, you can change the data range to look for like a wider data range, or to look for specific or add specific segments on top of this view. So now we're on to user type. So this type show you the type of users that have visited your website. So you can see whether they're guest websites, whether they're candidates. So in this case, this is like a jobs website for this demo. See whether they're like a jobs candidate, author, or an employer, so someone who's advertising for a job. And you have normal KPIs aligned against those user types. So the visitors, the actions per visit, time on page, and the bounce rate as well. For some reason, the cohorts section on this demo account isn't showing any data, even though there is data. So we'll move on, but this would be the area of Matomo where you'd want to understand how you manage to retain your customers over time. And you can change it to be like a monthly view like it is in here, or if you change it to be like a daily view instead, get a daily cohort instead. But as you can see, there's no data being pulled into this view, so we shall move on to behavior. So behavior is laid out very similarly to GA, structured similarly to GA. So we have the first section within behavior, we have pages. So it's just a table essentially of all the pages that are being tracked, but you can see the page URL itself, and you can see how many page views it had within this specified time period, the unique page views, so the number of visits that included this page, and then you have the bounce rate, you have the average time on page, X rate, and then the average page load time. It speaks for itself. This is very standard within digital analytics. And you have the same view, but for entry pages instead. You have the entrances, slightly different metrics here. Bounces, bounce rate, average page load time. You have the exit page here. So exits instead of entrances or page views. Unique pages as well, exit rate, and the average page load time. And then you also have page titles, so the title of the page, and then all the same metrics that you saw before. Very standard, very basic, gets to the point. So now you have on-site search keywords here, so all the keywords people search on your website, the search result pages, and then the search metrics. So very similar information that you would get in Google Analytics. You have the pages following the site search, which I think is quite interesting. So you can see products being number one, guide pages. I think that's quite useful information actually. You have search terms that showed no results, which I think is very good. You get that by default. And there's no data in this case. And you also have search categories as well. So if you create categories and categorization for your search terms, they will appear in here. You also have a view on outlinks. So these are links that you've clicked that are taking, or links that your customers have clicked that take them to a separate website. So you have all the URLs in here. You have the downloads as well that are being made on your website. So you can see the download URL and how many times that's being downloaded and the unique times it's being downloaded, the specific content. And then you have a view on events as well. So this is a tab with multiple tabs within it. So as you can see, you have a view of event categories, but you also have event actions and event names. So event categories, so you can see that it's similarly laid out to how you probably, or in some cases, lay out Google Analytics. You have your e-commerce categories, you have media, bounce, add in a review, rate, location, etc. And if you click this plus icon, it will show you the event action within that. So when you click event actions, that will change the view just to be actions. So you can see cart changes, pause, click, and you can see the actual number of events and whether there's an actual value attributed to that event. You can see that as well. And then you have the actual event name as well. And again, total number of events and any value associated to it. And you can see by default it's showing you 10 results, but you can go along and see more results than just that. So now we're on to the content section of behavior, and this is a very useful tab. So the content section is essentially a section that shows you how your customers are interacting with specific pieces of content on your website. So if you have banners on your website that you want to be tracked, track the user engagement of them, this is where you'll find that information. So we can see here you have the content name, which is preview dive-in center in this case. You can see it had 100 impressions. But when you open it up, you'll see the actual content pieces. So you can see, in this case, which I imagine is individual banners or images, and you can see how many impressions that they had, and then whether there are any actual content interactions with them, and the interaction rate as well. So if you're running a e-commerce website, this will be very useful for yourselves, because you can see on like how specific banners would be interacted with across your website, which is something that you're always going to want to track, because you want to know if your content that you're merchandising the website with is actually being seen and actually useful to the customers as well. So engagement. So now we have sort of like an engagement overview page, but this is where you'll find a lot of your engagement insights and data. So we have in here returning visits over time. So you can see the total number of return visits that you had throughout the period. You also see lots of scorecards here. So you have the actual number of return visits throughout the period. the time that they spent on site on average just for returning visitors. You have the actions per returning visit, and then you have the bounce rate for returning visits as well. You have the total number of actions by returning visits, and then you have information for new visits on the right hand side. So how many new visits you had, and the time on site, the exact same measures that you had for returning, you also have for new visits as well. Don't be alarmed by this, because again, this is a demo account, so in real life you shouldn't see this information. There would be actual numbers there. So now we're on to visits per visit duration, and what this effectively shows you is what visit duration time frame, so from 15 to 30 minutes, 0 to 10 seconds, gets the highest frequency of visits essentially. So which is the most normal range of a visit duration. So when you hover over a specific one, it will show you. So you can see that 1 to 2 minutes gets only 7 visits. 10 to 15 is 140, 15 to 30 is 221 visits. And the biggest range here, 0 to 10 seconds, has 2,350 visits. So that's the normal, well, that's the biggest frequency of visits duration. Or it's the visits duration with the highest frequency. You have 7 to 10 minutes, 11 to 30 seconds, and then you can see that how many visits impact each one. I feel like this could be visualized better, as if you had it in a way so that each range would be bigger depending on the frequency of visits. Because at the moment they're all the same apart from 0 to 10, which is the biggest one. But if it was kind of like in a linear graph where you could see each step, and each step would be larger depending on the frequency, I think that'd be a bit more useful than the way it's currently presented. You also have visits per number of pages. So again, similar layout to what you have here. You can see one page has the highest number of visits, and you hover over each one, each range, you can see the number of visits associated to it. So you have the visits by the visit number. So this shows you like how many times a unique visitor has visited your website. So, and you have the actual number of visits associated to that. So again, this is a demo account, so don't be alarmed too much by this information, but you can see what the range would be. So for your actual website in real life, this would of course be different. And you can also see the visits by days since last visit. So you see that 0 to 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and how many fall into each categorization, each bucket. So transitions is sort of like the behavior flow that you'll see in Google Analytics and the flow charts that you see in Adobe Analytics. But what this shows you is how customers go from one page and transition to the other. So what is the flow? And this is far more useful, in my opinion, than the information you get from Google Analytics, because Google Analytics, because of the sampling, you're never working with 100% of data, and the sampling in the behavior flow in Google Analytics is very extreme. I tend to just completely ignore it. I don't use it in Google Analytics because you're looking at, sometimes we looked at sample size of 1.5%, but with Matomo, you don't get sampling on your report, so that's not an issue. So you're looking at your actual real users, which is very useful. One useful thing as well in Matomo is that you can actually see a transition for areas outside of this transition report. So if you're in the page URL, page title, entry page, or exit page report, there'll be a transition icon here, which looks like this. And when you click that icon, it will launch it and it'll show you the transitions for that specific individual page as well. So you're not restricted to seeing that information just in here. You can see it for individual pages as well, which is, can be very useful. So you have a performance section, which is where you'll see insights around the speed of your website. So Matomo can track your average network time, server time, transfer time, DOM processing, DOM completion, and average onload time. And you have a view of an overview of each one. So you'll see a scorecard for all the key site speed metrics, and you have the page URLs, and then the site speed measures for those as well, which can be very important. Again, don't be alarmed. This is a demo account, which is why you're not seeing the site speed measures actually being poured in. They probably just haven't been actually implemented for the demo account. And you can see that breakdown by page titles as well instead of page URL. Transitions shows you the actions that customers make before and after they view a specific page. So Unlike with Behaviour Flow and Google Analytics, where you'll see that view for a certain amount of customers, their view throughout the entire site, and transitions are for individual pages. So we can see on this instance, we're looking at the cart page, and you can see what were the internal pages they were on before they reached that page, and how they flowed and what percentage that contribute towards the mix, and then what pages they went on to after that journey. So you can change it to be any individual pages of interest, but it's a good way of analyzing an individual page and see where traffic comes from, where the traffic goes to, and how people navigate to and from that page. Now we're onto the user's flow, and this is the information that is very similar to what you see in the behavior flow in Google Analytics and the flow chart within Adobe Analytics. So it pretty much looks like the same as what you see in Google Analytics. However, it's set up slightly differently. So with Google Analytics behavior flow, you have quite extreme sampling on the data, which can, in my opinion, makes it completely unusable. However, in a Matomo, you have restrictions by default, but you actually have the option to increase or expand those limitations. So as you can see here, we have 4 interactions by default, and you can actually include more interactions by clicking the plus icon, and you'll be able to add an additional step. When you click on each interaction, it will show you all of the URLs that are included in that interaction. So by default, you see you can only have about 5 URLs here, and then the rest is grouped into other. But if you click on the interaction, it will load all of the URLs here, and you can scroll across to each page and see all of the remaining URLs. You can also expand others as well. So if you click others and click show details, it will show you all the pages that were grouped into other. So quite useful, and I think what is even more useful is that you have the ability to expand the number of connections that are included in each interaction, which within Google Analytics you can't do that. In here you have the user flows continued, but you have the top paths that are captured of your user journey. So you can see interaction 1, and you can see that going from the cart page to the checkout is the number 1 path that's been captured. You see how many visits have been counted in that interaction. You can see the overview and the page URLs for each interaction. So when you open it up, it'll show you all the actions involved within that interaction. You can see the visits that are included in that. And then you have the same view, but for page titles instead, for both user flows, overview, and for the top paths. So page author is where you can see the authors who created your blog posts. So you can see, which author are contributing the most amount of traction on your blog and driving the most amount of actions, bounce rate, extra rate, etc., which can be quite useful, especially if you need to report back on the performance of your authors and your blog pages. Doing it by author is a good view to have. So here you have page location, where you can see the page location and the actions, unique actions, bounce rate, and all the metrics associated with it. You also have page type, so the type of page that you've classified, and the same metrics alongside that, which can make it a lot easier to analyze your website as a whole when you have page types set up for it. Definitely a useful view to have. And Matomo actually gives you calling errors on Bing, which I find quite interesting. They haven't included Google, probably for obvious reasons, but you can see pages where the Bing crawler, search engine crawler, had issues. So you can see 301 robots to text exclusion and the page that issues arised on. Okay, so now we're on to the acquisition overview. So you can see on this chart, you can see the number of visits to the website over time. So by default it is monthly, but you can change that view to be daily, weekly, multiple selections to how you'd like it to be. Of course, you have annotations again, and you can export the data or take a picture. You can also change the plots here. So by default it's showing visits, but you can change it to be users or unique visitors. And you can change the records plot as well. So you can add on a second view. So if you want to add, let's say, direct entry alongside that, then you can see visits that were total website, but also direct alongside as well. You can see more scorecards here for the channel type. So you can see direct entries, so how many you had, so percentage of visits, view on search engines, campaigns, social networks, distinctive keywords, lots of information here in the scorecards. So now you have a more granular view on the actual individual channels themselves. So you can see the channel type, so being like search engine traffic, social networks, referral, which is websites in Matomo. Then you have direct entry and then campaigns. And you can see the list of referrals all underneath here. So you can see social network, specific websites that sent you referrals. You can see that all under here. So now we have this search engines and keywords report. So this is a very interesting report, and I think search marketers will probably learn to love this report. But essentially what we have, this first tab is combined keywords tab. So with Matomo, you can import your Search Console and your Bing Webmaster Tools data into Matomo, and that will provide you like the keywords, the impressions, clicks, etc. And once it's imported, it is stored in Matomo. So even once the data expires in Search Console, for example, it will always be stored within Matomo. However, this combined keywords tab is essentially a combined view of all of those keywords together. So you have your Google Search Console keywords and your Bing, Yahoo, Yandex keywords all imported, all combined in the same place to give you total number of visits, which essentially clicks for those keywords. So it's a very powerful view that you have in there, and a very useful view to have it all combined. I've not seen any other platform that actually does this, provides this insight. You have search engines, so you have the number of search engine, which comes from the combined view, and you have the visits associated to each. So, Bing, Yahoo, DuckDuckGo, Quant, Ecosia, etc. And then you have the web keywords in Google. So this is your Google Search Console imported data. This is your Bing Webmaster Tools imported data. And Yandex news keywords, image keywords, and then video from Google Search Console as well. So quite a useful report. So for websites, you have the websites that are sending referrals to your referral traffic to you, and you have the KPI metrics and normal standard KPIs against those. You have social networks as well, just a basic pie chart showing you where all the traffic is coming from. So you have a view on your campaigns now as well. So similar to Google Analytics, you have source, medium, content, and campaign names. You have your campaign name there, the campaign keywords, which will be from your paid search ads. You have source, medium, contents, campaign IDs, campaign placement groups, and campaign source / medium. So when you actually get campaign traffic in, these reports will be filled. There's also a campaign URL builder within Matomo, which I think is quite useful. It's a separate tool outside Google Analytics for you to build it. So having it within the tool itself, I think is quite convenient. But yeah, you can build it all within Matomo. Then you have a crawling overview as well. So this is, again, once you connect your webmaster data to Matomo, you have access to the crawling index of your website. Shows information for Bing and Yahoo, and for Yandex, and you have scorecards here for both of them as well.